May the 19th, 1925, a meeting of the Ulster Council of the GAA was held in Clonus on Saturday. Mr P. McFadden, President in the chair. Delegates were present from Antrim, Armagh, Cavan, Fermanagh, Donegal, Monaghan and Down. The Secretary of the Council, Mr B.C. Fay from Cavan, reported that, accompanied by General Owen O'Duffy, he attended the recent meeting of the Accompanied by General Owen O'Duffy, he attended the recent meeting of the Munster Council of the Association for the purpose of placing before that body the need for assistance in their efforts to maintain the GAA in Ulster, owing to difficulties in obtaining sufficient gate receipts because of border difficulties and travelling to fixtures, as well as the loss as a result of the imposition of amusement tax, etc. This is a weird story. Comes from the Irish News on May the 19th, 1925. Welcome to the Irish History Boys. I'm Tim McGarry.
I'm Cormac Moore.
Cormac Moore, you're an expert on sport in Ireland. What's going on here? The GAA in 1925 are having a meeting. GAA, we know, All Ireland body, up the Republic there. And there's some talk here of the 6 counties wanting to special treatment, wanting to split from the GAA.
Split from the GAA, absolutely not. They just wanted a special organiser. They had a unique set of circumstances that the rest of Ireland didn't have, that the government they were under didn't really like them. And so they found it very difficult to survive in lots of parts of the 6 counties after partition. They were seen as more of a political body than a sporting body by the Northern authorities.
Really?
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 Yeah.
The GAA are seen as a political organisation?
Well, they were then anyway, yeah, and I think some people still do they?
Well, I don't know. Have you ever heard of Casement Park?
No, tell me about it. I've heard of Corrigan Park. I'm still waiting to see Casement Park. So it was a big issue, and it was a real problem for the GAA. The GAA was formed in 1884, in November 1884. The one province that had most difficulty in attracting members and followers was in Ulster, particularly the further north and east you went.
Right.
And so it always had kind of more pressing issues, more competitors. It obviously had a huge community in the north that would not been pro-GAA at all, would have been Protestant. And the GAA has not historically attracted a lot of Protestants or Unionists, to its fault. Now, and in some ways, it even though it's never been openly sectarian, and it wants to be an all Ireland body, it definitely wasn't considered a cross community body for years. Now it is making good efforts now, but at the time of partition, it was considered a nationalist body. Now it as a body always considered itself number one a sporting body, but a lot of its members, a lot of its leaders were closely associated with the independence struggle against Britain. And then obviously after Bloody Sunday in Croke Park in 1920, that was kind of that link between Sinn Féin, the IRA, and the GAA was enshrined almost.
Yeah.
In the north, there was always problems with northern authorities, pretty much from the way partition started. And there's this. I'm going to talk about kind of a wave of violence that happens. Pretty much it ends up kind of in Belfast. It ends up with 4 kids being killed and two women being killed in Weaver Street in North Belfast in February 1922. But it starts off in Derry Jail. The members of the IRA tried to free some prisoners, and they actually in Derry Jail, and they put chloroform on two of or a couple of prison guards, and at least one of them dies, maybe 2, but one of them definitely dies. And then three of the people, the escapees are caught. Specials catch them before they can get away, and 3 are sentenced to death. So in January, this is December 1921. This is around the time of the treaty. In January 1922, the Ulster football final, GAA Ulster football senior football final, is on in Derry, and the Monaghan footballers are travelling up to the final. Now, they're not all going there for the final. Some of them are going there to free the 3 people who are due to be executed in Derry Jail. But they're stopped in Tyrone by the specials and found guns and so on in the car. They're arrested. They're imprisoned. And Michael Collins, who at this stage has become the chairman of the provisional government of the Free State. This is just after the treaty was signed. And he's disgusted with this. And then he leads an excursion into the north because of the footballers being arrested. He leads an excursion into the north
So you say football, it's actual players themselves who were IRA members?
Some members were players, some members, like Daniel Hogan, his brother Michael was killed in Croke Park.
Right.
The reason why Hogan stand in Croke Park is because Michael Hogan was a Tipperary player.
Right.
He was killed. But Daniel Hogan is kind of right-hand man of Ono Duffy, who you mentioned in the speech. Right. He was very high up in the IRA. He became a Garda commissioner.
Yeah.
He was high up in the Free State Army. But he was in a Monaghan football team, Daniel Hogan, but he was also in the IRA. So there were members in the IRA who were on the Monaghan football team. Right. So some were going for football reasons, some were also going to free the 3 Derry jail people. Michael Collins, though, he takes revenge or orders the kidnapping of between 40 and 50 loyalists from Tyrone and Fermanagh, and they're taken across the border. The Northern government goes crazy. There's a huge a lot more specials are put as border areas. Roads are trenched. It becomes very, very tense. The whole situation in the north. And one of these extra kind of deployment of specials, it going from Belfast to somewhere in Tyrone, but it stops off in Clones in Monaghan, which is Free State territory. Right. And they stop off to change trains, but the local IRA gets wind of it, that specials are waiting at a platform here, let's attack them. So a gun battle takes place at Clones train station. 4 specials are killed. The IRA leader, Matt Fitzpatrick, he's killed as well. The rest of the specials are taken prisoner as well. And then a cycle of violence starts in Belfast immediately afterwards, where many more people are killed. The worst case, I think, of all that period, that whole sectarian tension in the north from 1920 to 1922, the worst example I've seen was there was a group of girls, children playing on this. It was a kind of a Catholic enclave in North Belfast called Weaver Street. It's no longer there. Weaver Street's gone now. And they were out playing. It was a February evening. It was in February 13th, but it was quite a mild evening. They're outside playing in until about 8 o'clock or so. And they were using kind of the lampposts, skipping ropes. And 2 men were seen. The 2 men were seen, first of all, talking to a uniformed special. And that person went away. But the 2 men then were seen at the side of the street, and one of them hurled a grenade right into the centre of the kids to get the maximum damage. It explodes in front of the kids, shrapnel going everywhere. 4 of the young girls die, and two women die as well. It was the worst. Of me, it was the worst incident of all that period.
Weaver Street, yeah. Weaver Street. Deliberately targeting children.
Deliberate targeting of innocent civilians. And that was so that all started with this kind of cycle with the Derry jail prisoners. But my point I'm trying to make here is that the GAA is seen as the IRA,
a Republican organisation,
Republican nationalist organisation, and this is kind of the start of partition. This is the start of their relationship with the Northern government, and it's not a good one.
Yeah,
and this continues. They can't get playing fields from the local councils. The RUC often dig up goal posts. There's often bombs at GAA halls. This is happening for decades now after partition. And you see it's very hard to get fixtures in the north, particularly in the 6 counties. And that's actually reflected in the field as well. As Monaghan and Cavan win every single Ulster title in the interwar period.
Right.
No county from 6 counties wins an Ulster senior final.
Yeah, to be fair,
period.
Antrim have never won anything. So,
well, they actually did. They won a couple of Ulster titles back then, but before then, and I think subsequently they definitely won something from the 40s onwards.
Well,
but not a lot. Not a lot. Anyway, yeah, that's fair to say.
So Monaghan and Cavan were doing it because
and all those
there were
finals,
practicalities of playing in the 6
and there was no Casement Park then out in Belfast. I think Sean's Park was the main GAA pitch at Belfast, but the main pitch used for Ulster finals was Clones, St. Tiernax and Clones. So the GAA was kind of partitioning football as well, in that it kind of ignored the 6 counties. It had all the major finals in Clones. Monaghan and Cavan were completely dominant in the field as well. So there was this feeling that something had to be done to keep the GAA alive in the 6 counties. Even the BBC. Now, look, we'll talk about in '75. Actually, we've got here that BBC's inadequate coverage of Gaelic games is the subject of a letter.
Yeah.
This is '75, but '25. So the BBC starts in I think it was 24. It sets up in the north.
Yeah.
The year after it sets up in England, and they have no coverage of Gaelic games. You look at the newspapers. The only one that does have coverage really is Irish News. So there's this kind of, and the Northern government is is totally opposed to GA, sees it as a political body as opposed to a sporting body, and does its best basically to make sure that it doesn't thrive, it does well. So but the GA ignore the pleas from GA members in the north to get a special organizer. They continue to.
So this was the meeting in 25. You're saying, listen, we need special help here from Central GAA,
Central Council,
or from the rest of the 26 counties. Our circumstances are different.
Yeah,
and
they were different, and they did need more help, and the GAA said no.
And the GAA said no.
We're not going to give it to you
because the GAA is partitionist.
Well, in this instance, they definitely could have done more to help struggling members of 6 counties.
Right.
They should have done more. And they didn't, And it's interesting as well. The GA they tweaked a bit their rules. So they had a lot of bans on foreign games. They had bans on, if you remember, the civil service.
Oh yes.
If you remember civil service, like a teacher, for example, this is in 1919. This is passed. You weren't allowed to be a member of the GA.
What?
So you had to quit your job as a teacher, or if you're
teacher
or Dublin Castle. Back in 1919, this is passed with GA, an annual congress. But they changed it though for.
Is that sorry? Your civil service, as in the British civil service as well.
Yeah, but a teacher as well. Teachers as well.
Teachers.
Yeah, because they were part of British civil service in 1919. But they tweaked it though for the north in 1922 that teachers were allowed to teach, even though they were taking money from the British government. But it was a very sensitive subject. They had a ban on RIC, Royal Irish Constabulary members, and British soldiers.
Couldn't play GAA.
But they obviously changed. The RIC obviously was disbanded, and the Gardaí came aboard, so they obviously allowed Gardaí in, but they wouldn't allow RUC obviously become members, or British Army. So there was they tweaked the rules a little bit to recognise the change, constitutional position of the island. But it didn't help the 6 counties much. They really struggled, and were under a lot of pressure from the northern authorities at that time.
My favourite story of recent times is a certain person rang up the Nolan show.
Who was that? The same person?
No. A certain person rang up about the Casement Park issue. And said that his concern was, it was a unionist obviously, his concern was that if Casement Park was built, the GAA might rename the park after some Republican ruler.
I heard that as well. I heard that one. That was a great one. Yeah.
So that's still an issue today. They're named parks after Roger Casement, and that Roger Casement, of course, executed in 1916.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know where he went to school. Do you know where Roger Casement went to school?
Don't say Malachy, did he?
No, Ballymena.
Oh, Ballymena.
Ballymena, yeah. Roger Casement, good Protestant, went to school in Ballymena.
He's like a fascinating character.
His father died in the Adair Arms Hotel in Ballymena.
Okay, yeah.
That was my compromise solution to Casement Park. Build it, but move it to Ballymena.
And how was that go down?
It hasn't gone down well so far, I'll be honest with you.
Keep plugging away. You might get a shot at it, Jess. Because Casement Park isn't going anywhere either.
But this link between politics and the GAA is fascinating, because it had always been seen as a nationalist organisation.
And it is a nationalist.
It is a nationalist organisation.
Again, GAA will always say, we don't get involved in politics. So GAA is probably the most politically sporting of all sporting bodies in the world. The GAA could be argued as being the most political. It's a political body. I'm on the official GAA history committee, and I've a huge amount of time for the GAA. I think it's a wonderful organisation, absolutely wonderful organisation. But it is a political organisation. Yeah. And always has been, it plays the national anthem everywhere.
Absolutely. I went up to see Lochgeel versus Dunloy, or Lochgeel versus Ballycastle, and in Lochgeel they play the national anthem.
Yeah, exactly. So
God Save the Queen. King. I forget the poor Queen's.
Well, she was there for over 70 years.
I know, sorry. And tricolours flying everywhere, and scoreboards in Irish and all that sort of stuff.
It's a national body. It is an outwardly nationalist body.
Yeah.
It always has been. So if you say you're not involved, it's not a political organisation, it makes no sense, because it's obviously a nationalist body. Now, I'm a huge admirer of Jarlath Burns, the current president, and he's principal in the school in Bedsbrook in Down, and he's invited Orange Order in. He's really tried to get the GAA to understand the unionist community, and he genuinely does want to reach out to them, and there's a lot of efforts being made, but it has to go both ways as well, and we're not there yet. I think.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm going to read you this letter from the Irish News on May the 22nd, 1975, because I do like that. I do like the tone. It's from James E.P. Goff from Belfast. It says, I'm writing to see if, through your columns, I can highlight the inadequate coverage of Gaelic football on Northern Ireland BBC television. This is 1975. I have written to Joy Williams, Northern Ireland BBC Sports Department, asking for a better coverage of Gaelic football and received a reply in which she informs me that she does not hold any prospect of a better coverage in the near future. Soccer, rugby, boxing, hockey, motor racing, etc. all get big coverage, and I would like to give an example of the reason for my complaint. On March 17th, Ulster played in Croke Park, which match was shown on RTE live, but unfortunately Northern Ireland viewers did not have the opportunity of seeing the match as it was not televised on NI BBC television. It is normal practice to screen sporting events on Northern Ireland interest shown by RTE. When the Railway Cup match was played, all the BBC could manage was to give the result of the match at 11:40 on the late news. Surely the BBC and I are neglecting their duty. Are they not there to serve the people and cater for their interests? Gaelic football is the biggest spectator sport in Northern Ireland. All I ask for is fair treatment for the GAA game.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed. You could have read that letter out from 2025. People still complain.
Well, a lot of unionists say that BBC show too much coverage.
Absolutely, far too much. Yeah.
But back in the 20s, when the BBC was starting to function, and it never had any coverage of GA for years and years. You would not find any recognition of it at all, of its scores, of the matches.
Thank God for the Irish News, because there's plenty of coverage of the GAA in the Irish News.
Yeah,
I'm not saying too much. All I'm saying is, if there was a nuclear war, it'll be third after Crossmaglen Rangers beat Carrick Macross.
I look at the papers every for 50 years and 100 years, and last year I was 1974 was the World Cup final. Was happening in West Germany. West Germany beat the Netherlands 2-1 the final. And I was going to, because I love that tournament, because that was the start of total football. Johan Cruyff, and they should have won the game. They didn't. The crafty Germans found a way of getting a win. And I was going, I'm sure there's going to be loads of coverage on the Irish News about that match. Nothing. I couldn't, this days after, there was no coverage of Irish News. It was back-to-back GA coverage and a bit of horse racing.
A bit of horse racing.
But zero coverage of football, of soccer.
You'd be hard-pressed to get the hockey results too, I'll be honest with you.
I would say that as well, yeah. In fairness, they had a bit of rugby now. They mentioned the Lions, or any 6 nations, or 5 nations as it was then, they would have mentioned. But for the World Cup, you would have thought would have got a bit more exposure. But the Irish News has been holding the banner for GA for time immemorial, I think. Yeah.
You would hear from northern players as well that when they're playing teams from the south in the GAA, that they, there's a lot of kind of, you're Black Northerners, you're kind of Brits. There's a lot of that still.
Sledging, I think is the term.
Sledging is the official term.
Called, the official term.
I think it's the official term with a lot of bad language involved, and that they can be quite partitionist to the GAA.
Yeah, I think it's not just GAA. No, people say who've moved from the north to Dublin or wherever, they do often feel that they're what are you doing here? Go back to your own country, kind of thing. And some of it might be harmless fun, but for people involved, I'm sure it isn't. And I've heard loads of stories about teams from 6 counties facing awful abuse. How come your national anthem's not being played here? And God save the Queen, and like some awful stuff. And but that is sledging. So it's
you just hate it when a team from the 6 counties wins the All Ireland, don't you?
I certainly don't.
Armagh won.
Armagh, I was at that match. It was Armagh against Galway, so I was completely neutral. I was very happy. I like Kieran McGeeney's a great player, a great motivator. I was very happy for him, and it was great to see Jarlath Burns, and he's his son winning the Sam Maguire Cup. He unfortunately had retired by the time Armagh won its first All Irelands. So I absolutely. I remember being at the All Ireland final.
Even that,
Down winning now. Down played beautiful football. I always thought won 5 All Irelands. I was at the one in '94 between Dublin and Down, and that was a great team. That was a great Down team.
Sam Maguire was Protestant. He was an IRA.
Protestant, yeah.
Was he an IRA man?
He's in London. Yeah, he's involved in the IRA in London. You wouldn't know Michael Collins well when Michael Collins lived over London before the Easter Rising.
So you can see why unions go, well, I'm not really. It's not for me, is it? Like you're naming trophies, you're naming stadiums after IRA people, even modern.
Look, it's. It's a difficult question, and I do accept why unionists wouldn't want to be involved, but when the GA is genuinely trying to reach out, and I think it is trying to reach out, like that should be appreciated as well. And Gordon Lyons, for example, has never gone to a GA match since he's the
DUP Minister for
Communities
Culture,
Minister, which involves sport, and he's been at Tiddlywinks matches, and he's been at every other sport, but he will not go to a GA match, and don't tell me that's not political.
So the reason Casement Park has not been built, it's not just money, because there's a lot of money involved, but there's politics. There's a lot of politics involved.
People can't really blame Gordon Lyons for Casement Park. Like GUP, obviously stopped. Long Kesha was going to be this great stadium for all three sports of rugby, football, and GAA. That should have happened. That would have been great. I think that would have been a really good solution. But the DUP stopped that. And they've been sitting on their hands. Obviously, there's been a lot of objections to the stadium. Maybe it is too big. I don't know if it's too big, but that's the planning permission as it was given. Chris Heaton Harris said last year, they'll find the money. Don't you worry, boy. We'll find the money. And now Henry Bennett's gone, oh, no, we're a bit tight for money here. So the British government has promised they would deliver the money no matter what it took. Now that's off the table. So it looks like it's pretty much certain that the British government are not going to meet that gap.
Well,
and then what that means is that GA are going to have to go back, get a new planning permission, a new stadium, a more modest stadium. That's going to take 2-3 years, and then we're going to be waiting a long time, I think, for Casement Park. That's the reality.